What's really going on, everyone? Back again with another episode. This is season 4, episode 7. Once again, I am Noah Lyons. And before we get into all the latest news and entertainment updates, be sure to follow us on all of our social media. That includes Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at WRGO Pod. Be sure to like, listen, subscribe on all of our streaming platforms. That includes YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcast. Shout out to the great Henry Woods. If you go on our TikTok or on our Twitter, on our Instagram, there are some great new graphics. So, Mackenzie and Henry, how are you all today?
Doing good, doing good. How are y'all?
I'm chilling.
Another day in God's kingdom.
Wait,
Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord. Praise
what
him.
did you say?
Another day in God's kingdom.
Okay, we're going religious this time. No, I'm chilling. I'm catching up on Love is Blind. So I'm curious to see what all the Twitter commotion is about.
I'm all the way caught up on Love is
Clay
Blind.
lame though. Clay lame. So like he really lame. He knew.
Yeah, Clay is lame. AD is lame too. She lame.
Wait, what? I feel like
Yeah.
she take him back. She lame.
What do you mean?
Like
Oh,
she.
taking her back? No.
That's
She
what I'm
ignored
saying.
red flags because he was cute. He was saying
She
all the
didn't
red.
know he was cute until after. That's where I'm
talking about when they were dating after the pods.
That's what I'm saying. In the pods, those same red flags were there because he mentioned
They actually were there. Yeah, they were there.
And then she even said to herself, "I date these type of dudes." And
yeah.
blah, blah, blah. So like,
that's what I'm saying. The red flags was there. She chose to ignore them because he's cute, and then here we are.
You hate to see it. Black love. Noah looks so confused.
That is not. We will not hashtag Black love on that one. We will not.
Well, be sure to like our newest YouTube playlist entitled Love is Blind Talk with Henry and Mackenzie. I'm serious. We should actually do that. That's like an editor's note. You all should actually do a live reaction.
Strategy meeting live on the session. Okay, let's get into the food for thought.
The serious.
There you go. So we are recording this episode on Thursday, March 7th. If you are involved in the news, by the time this releases on Friday, you will at least be aware that Biden's State of the Union happened. But he will deliver it as we are recording it tonight, which will largely outline his economic agenda and policy for what a second term could look like. Shout out to Henry. Like I said, he put out a great graphic that is available on all of our social media that includes some of his plans, which include plans to potentially raise the corporate income tax rate from 21% to 28%. It was previously 35% under before Trump took office, requiring households of over $100 million to pay at least 25% of their earnings in tax, expanding the child tax credit, which expired in 2022, which has not been renewed. He is expected to also lay out a plan to protect abortion rights nationally and lowering credit card late fees and making it easier for first-time home buyers to purchase a home. Do you all think this will help, given that a poll came out today that said a majority of voters think he is too old to be president? Does this move the needle at all? Or do you think tonight's State of the Union could actually do anything?
I mean, for me, I do think that this, and we talked about this offline before we started the podcast, but I think that this State of the Union is very important for him, or it should be important for him. It's an election year, but everything that he outlined, like even protecting abortion rights, lowering credit card fees, I think those are like heavy hitters that for me personally, I would be interested in to learn more about. And I do think that if he says the right things, that could change or sway, maybe not a how people view him, especially with the abortion stuff, because I think it was France who just passed something. It was like a national, it's a right now. So I'm not gonna think like that's possible or whatever. Or I don't want to say think that's possible, but I don't want to jinx it or anything. But if something like that happened or he laid out a plan to execute something like that, I do think that would have a lot of impact on his votes.
Henry, I want to ask you something because it seems like I would like to say that we would all agree with the policies that he's doing. Do you think the problem is that like he doesn't talk about them enough, or like what do you think needs to happen for like? I think all these stuff is good. It's just a matter of like how does it translate to like us? What do you think?
I think that's what's like maybe interesting. Speaking about abortion rights and speaking about credit card fees, or even pushing out this like plan or proposal for homeowners or renters, that speaks directly to like millennial issues, so to speak. And I think for me, he's kind of doing what I would think is in his control to amp up because like facing, I would say the Congress he's facing, he's gonna have some type of pushback. So like to be strategic and actually get something done or possibly get it done, let's say like student loans. We've seen the pushback, but he's still actively put some initiative toward giving funds toward there toward that and attempting to allocate it as best as possible. So I think like for me, it does something, especially living in the South, and knowing how like they're actively talking about like voting rights. So like that's my next big thing. Like how is he gonna protect us and like really ensure that all that crazy stuff that's happening in Florida and when we get into the DEI and all of that stuff, how does that not widespan to where it's really taking real time effect? Like it's taking effect now, we can see, but to where it doesn't become so catastrophic to where employers are picking up these same policies or disenfranchising certain fundings and so on, stuff of that nature. So I'm really curious to see how he speaks about that, because even like recently they spoke about sending relief to Gaza. So like
I was literally just about to say that.
He's definitely attempting to pull his big ones, as we would say, I guess. But it's hard to kind of, I guess, put a judgment.
Hard to like measure.
Yeah, like measure it. Thank you. It's hard to measure the real-time effects and if this is gonna save him and so on and so forth, because like you can kind of see the momentum these Republicans are going off of with Trump, and it's really scary. Like it's really scary because us as Black people, us as people of color, they bunch us together. But we are facing like a lot of human civil equal right protections this upcoming election. So it's like having Trump in office for another 4 years, that is going to be very detrimentally bad for us, like on so many levels. And I don't think people are grasping that. So
do you think
I think the Black and brown people are grasping it. I just don't think everyone else is. And I do think that like during the State of the Union, I really don't want to watch it, but that is something that I feel like has to be addressed in a statement. Like it has to be addressed, and so does Gaza has to be addressed as well, like directly.
what do you mean addressed in the statement? Because if
like it has to be like he can't like I'm
you gotta
just
face
thinking
it head
on address it.
but
Like
he can't come out here talking about you ain't Black if you don't vote for Biden again.
I'm not no, I'm not saying that he needs to that like these programs, DEI programs are necessary, are constitutional, however he wants to, but he can't spend that hour of the State of the Union and not address that and not address Gaza. Those are because especially with all these topics that he has to talk about, they're heavy topics and that will fill up 60 minutes real quick. So I could see him going through that 60 minutes, not talking about DEI and Gaza. And, I think that would be a missed opportunity.
Do you think, Henry, curious on this, because I think you actually made a really good point before going back to Gaza, but I think you really made a good point about like the democracy stuff. I think he mentions it a lot in his speeches, but I don't think he like goes there to, I think, the point that you want. Do you feel like, especially as someone in Georgia, which is kind of, I feel like the epicenter of like where all this like democracy talk is happening, do you feel like what do you feel like he needs to do or say as someone who's actually like living there?
Again, that's the hard thing because like realistically, Black men in the South are not checking for him. They're like, Trump gave me money when I was broke, put him back in office. I was doing this, that, I was up. So like that's their mind frame. So how I kind of posed to our guests maybe 2 weeks ago, like when somebody is so checked out politically, how do you get them to reengage? And that's really Biden's, I guess, default, because Trump has that swagger from the rap days and like the time period where Black men were praising him to some degree. So like they can kind of throw that in there. And then when the COVID happened, they got the pandemic checks and all that stuff. Is like they're not understanding the full nuance of it. They just see the bigger picture type thing. And I think that's what's scary. So like he really needs to get people on the ground. I'm in Atlanta. I can only imagine the rural areas of Georgia. And then let's think about a Mississippi or Alabama, these places that are not as developed. I stay in a huge capital of the South to where a lot of things are mobilized and I'm informed and I have resources, air quote. These small places are what's that are not well informed or as informed. I think that's where it's gonna like really hurt him. And I think he need people on the ground, like for
So
real.
my question then would be like, what can he say to them? Like, what would be
I
something
was
that
just about to ask that.
he can say to that guy to get them to like think twice about their vote?
And that's the scary part. Like, I really genuinely, I don't know. I don't know because do they even care about like buying a home? I don't know. Do they care about abortion rights? I don't know. Do they care about, whatever? I don't know what their actual concerns are, but I know their main concerns. Like, let's say he came up with a plan for like living wages or something. They would definitely care about that because it directly affects my pocket. If he came up with something maybe like even expunging certain criminal records or something like that to where they can get better opportunities, that would maybe get their attention. Those are things that are going to directly attract or
I think
catch
that's
these
actually a
people.
great idea.
Yeah, and I think the what I would probably say, and I think I'm actually like very sympathetic to, I think a lot of people in like Biden's camp and his team, his campaign, where I think they would honestly say, like, hey, a lot of that stuff in terms of like providing like economic opportunity for those in kind of rural communities, in terms of supporting unions to get higher wages, like he's doing a lot of that stuff. I think the problem is what you're saying, Henry. And like, I don't think any of us know how to do it. It's
No, no.
like, how do you cut through that, or how do you meet these people in the fashion in which they need to? And the problem is that like we can just call a spade a spade. That's not Biden's style. It's just not. Like that's his weakness in terms of like communicating that. And I think like if anything,
Not
yeah,
push
go ahead.
back, but just ask the
Mhm.
question of like how you said that's not Biden style. I think that's the Democrats as a whole. I think that's the problem or the thing we how we always
I
talk
would
these
I
ideas.
would disagree. I would disagree with you
Really?
there only because I think then it's a matter of like messenger, and messenger style. Where like if you look at someone like a Raphael Warnock or these other kind of politicians who are like rare, who can communicate to both folks in the city, folks in the suburbs, but also just and folks in the rural areas to say like, hey, I know what you're going through. You just need someone who has that perspective. And the problem is that Biden is older, he's white, and it's just harder for him to do that. And I also think this is like, I think the glaring thing is that I think um, I love Kamala Harris. She's great, but I also don't think she has that ability to just say, hey, I'm going to lead our message and get it. And like, I'm going to carry our water on that. I don't
Maybe
think
you're
she's,
describing that disconnect then, but he does it's not a connection. They don't have that direct connection because if we think about it, like realistically, if we think about statistics, I didn't Google this before this statement, but black men don't like to see black women in power. Like
Oh, I have a record of that when I was interning for the Republican National Convention in college, and they literally said, "I can't have my wife be a president."
so something of such, and then how you just described Biden's character, they don't trust that party. That party doesn't speak to them. So if he doesn't have a Raphael Warnock on the ground for him, like hitting hard, telling these like the people that he can really relate, you get what I'm, you
Yeah.
just
I mean, the
I
funny
mean,
thing is, and
because
like, this is,
his last ploy wasn't he eating fried chicken at a table with
That's the pro.
like
It always
family?
come off as a ploy or like some opportunistic thing. Instead of like we've all kind of said, meeting us where we are or meeting them. I'm inevitably gonna vote for the man because like we understand the greater big picture, right? But like on some like people who are not gonna vote for him, and we can say it like who championed him were white women and black men, per my knowledge. Like Noah, you the politician on the app, so like let me know if I'm wrong. But like,
And white men.
well, duh, like that's
Well,
inevitable.
yeah.
I
So
mean,
how would Biden and Kamala speaking to those two people that may shift their vote? How would he actually like appeal to these people? Because
and then it's like, this is the election of all elections where I think, and this is why you have people who are supposedly paid to do this. This is when you need like a surrogate team to be like, we are going to exhaust every single other non political person to speak on your behalf. In some cases, that might include, I mean, the biggest one out there is Taylor Swift, but there's also the Obamas. It's athletes, LeBron, Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts. Like he needs somebody on that team making those calls every single day, saying like Jalen Hurts, yo, you now, you know, the leading black man, go out there. You're from Houston, go out there. I think he and his team need to start making those calls now. Like, yo, Braun, yo, Kevin
And
Durant,
that's
like
the
they
problem,
need to
though.
be.
How you say it now? They are, and that I think a lot of Black people are feeling this way this election term too. We're tired of being used as like the saving grace, or like the you can count on them, or that option. And they're gonna wait until the last minute to directly speak to us instead of doing it now when, bro, we're gonna be the ones that get you in the seat.
Yeah.
I would agree. I mean, like, and I think the problem is that I think one, they do it too late. And I also think that even the people who they reach out to, I know people who have like said, hey, we made this ask, it just didn't work, or like they didn't want to do it. And I think to your point, I think it's also the urgency of like, hey, you might not be effing with us, but you're definitely not gonna like it. Trump comes in here. So yeah, Steph Curry, get out here, come to North Carolina where you're from. Start
I'm
voting.
gonna say something. I guess this maybe is controversial, but like, let's say these elite Black people that he could call on to speak directly to the community are not actually in his party. Like, that
I
could
think
be.
they would be just off of a branding perspective. You figure that out later.
Yeah.
And like that's why you have vetting. You figure that out. You figure that out. But I'm sure as Mackenzie could tell you, it's like all about like brand awareness. Who are the good people on behalf of our brand? Who can fill the gaps that we can't? And like they need to think hard about that, like now.
And
Like
I would even say, like, from a team perspective, I don't know who's running their team, but I would say maybe some younger people need to be in there, like Gen Z, because like I just feel like because it is election year, I should be seeing him every single step. That I'm like, I should just see him everywhere. And like to your point, Henry, talking about, or maybe it was Noah's point, just bringing in LeBron and like all these celebrities and stuff. If it should have happened last year, and it should have been in a more organic way. There's so many ways now with just marketing, brand marketing, that they could have come up with so many innovative ways to make it not look forced.
So and maybe that becomes of your algorithm on social media is what you put into it. So you're only gonna see what you put into your algorithm. So, because arguably they've had more cookouts at the White House and more things that do speak toward our
But
value.
most of them wasn't most of them though ran by Kamala though.
But that
I mean,
that
no,
all ties together,
yes
no?
and no, yes and no. But then
Yes,
it's like, but then like putting on my campaign hat, it's like, but then are you only reaching out to the people who are already in the know? You got to stop doing that. You have
yeah.
to break out of that. So like, I'm just thinking off like the top of my head, like for every time Breakfast Club has something, or like even like lesser known podcasts that are still like famous, like yo,
Like
give.
us.
No, I was yes, like us for sure. I was
Kamala,
gonna say
come
like
on
yo,
down. Come on down. Ain't you?
give but like
Why-
give the read a bag and be like, give Kamala 15 minutes. Horrible decisions. Give them a bag. Have an ad on there. Like those are the things they need to start doing now. Like, what do people our age watch and listen to?
Hot Ones.
Like they need to,
Hot Ones. Have you guys watched Hot Ones? I think
of
that would
course,
actually be so
of
great.
course, of
All it is
course.
him eating hot wings and answering tough questions. And that guy is actually really good at questions. But
He's
stuff
very
like
good.
that,
Yeah,
stuff
like
like that is why I say that there needs
So
to, I
you're
don't know who's on
saying
the team,
intermix
but
it more organically so that it reaches, the younger.
well,
if I
yes,
started tomorrow on their team, I
Other
would say call Quinta Brunson right now.
yes, stuff like
Get her
that.
on the phone
Stuff
and
like
let's
that.
talk it through.
Okay,
And
but they're gonna argue they played with Cardi B the last time.
but see, we're
Call her
beyond.
again. I don't care.
But I would just say that there's so
What does that
many
mean?
ways and so many platforms. We're beyond the
Mm-hmm.
barbershop. We're beyond the fried chicken at the dinner table. We're beyond, like, there's so many other ways to be organic. And I do feel like the fried chicken, I'm sorry, that was just such a cheap, and to me, almost a lazy way, because
It is lazy.
we've seen that before. We've seen the barbershop tours. We've seen it. Yeah, get on, do a little appearance on Abbott Elementary. That would have been like just stuff that's more organic and natural. And we're not talking about politics, but hey, by the way, President Biden's making an appearance on Abbott Elementary. Like that type of stuff is giving you a lot more face time.
Shoot, you know what I would do? Yo, get that man who everybody knows, who's America's newsman. Get Phil Lewis on the line.
Oh yeah,
okay?
see?
Get him. Like, think outside the
I
box.
actually seen a tweet today.
Get us to be on your team and pay us because we are giving.
I was about to say, honestly,
ideas
this
right
whole
now. We are
clip
really
needs to
giving
be
out
wrapped up
ideas.
and sit in a pitch deck to
Yes.
team at
We
us.
would be
WRGO
working.
5.
We'd be working.
We gonna carry you to the White House,
falls.
Biden. We
Literally.
got you. We got you.
Actually, and that would be a testament. We're gonna Black people gonna carry your ass to the White House.
If that ain't true, I don't know what is. If that ain't true, I don't know what is.
Look, if he hired us, it would be Biden, the first family, Kamala, the second family, us, row 3.
My mom made it.
Yeah, right, with a t-shirt. I did it. But I think like we should even like I actually think this is like something that we should even like consider as like a fun episode thing where it's like, hey, if you were on his team, who would be your first surrogate call? I think we should have like a surrogate draft and just see like how that goes one day. Because I think it would be very interesting and showcase each of us how we each differently think and like what networks or what media we're each tapped into. I think that's actually something that we should we should explore.
The audience
moving on.
All of our strategy today, boy.
But you never know.
If you are a Biden staffer, you better put our names at the top of that memo for that senior staff joint.
We dropped some gems.
Yeah, we did.
And if he did them, they would actually, I would say, create some momentum behind him.
This will be my last note though, even though because he did do the Vogue. They do 73 questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did.
And it did decently.
It was fine.
There was still hate, but that's a different way to still be cool.
Or like even like the things that I watch now are like, this will be the last thing I say. Like, don't you know like how they do like those like interesting things where it's like, I forgot who does it, but it's like, hey, I'm President Biden, and here are the things that people Google about me. And it's like they like rip it off and has, like, a question or do like the GQ, here are the 10 things I can't live without. Do that stuff.
So we've agreed that the communications team is weak.
They're trash. Garbage.
Yeah.
You got two people that work in media, one that work in politics.
And this off the dome. This off the dome.
We're doing this live.
We're not even trying. We just chit-chatting. Like
it's nothing.
But I think that goes to what we've always talked about is that like these political campaigns, they have nobody on the staff who not only looks like us, but who is our age, who is actually like a real person engaging in the world. Because it's like you can have these people on your staff, but are you empowering them to make decisions, have their own budgets to say, hey, yo, I'm going to do this and you are going to be fully behind me and support me and not just say, hey, here's the memo. I read it. I don't like it. Mm-hmm. It's like you actually have to empower, because there's a difference between hiring people and actually empowering them to make decisions. And clearly, I don't think their staff is diverse. Do they empower them to actually make decisions? Probably not.
Right. Just that little video she posted, that H, I like my H in front of my B surrounded by my. Y'all didn't see that video she posted last month?
Did not.
It was
not. I didn't see it.
It sounded cringe.
Yeah, it sounds real cringe.
It's not. It's not.
Moving on.
Hey, moving on.
This was we didn't even plan for this to be that long. That was great. So the University of Florida this week has eliminated all diversity, equity, and inclusion positions and initiatives following a new state regulation prohibiting such programs. They closed the Office of Chief Diversity Officer and seized contracts with external vendors focused on DE&I initiatives, according to information gathered from HR Grapevine. It was around $5 million they had in their budget this calendar year. The state regulation was, of course, praised by Governor DeSantis, calling them quote unquote toxic. I don't really know where to begin with this, but I will let one of you all lead the reins and guide the conversation.
I mean, the first thought that comes to my mind, honestly, is not even about the University of Florida. I'm thinking about FAMU. I'm thinking about what's the other HBCU?
Bethune-Cookman.
Bethune-Cookman.
I mean,
But I was just gonna say, because what does this mean for predominantly Black institutions? Like,
I never thought about that. That's a great question.
Like to that point though, like that's kind of what happened in Mississippi, or like
oh
Mississippi.
yeah, talk about that.
Yeah, talk about it. Yeah,
All
while
of
we're here.
this is kind of lumped in, and that's why this election is so serious and voting locally is so serious, because Ron DeSantis those policies and that Black critical theory, all this stuff he is pushing down there in Florida, Mississippi picking up, Alabama picking up, Georgia picking
But
up.
what exactly happened though? Because I'm not familiar with what happened.
From the DE, like literally last year, I remember my job in that particular state had to restructure their hiring because he basically made it illegal for companies to teach or even talk about diversity and inclusion and all of that stuff. So it goes from there. Then we talked about how, he's pushing for critical Black theory, where they can't speak or teach about Black history for real. Like they have to sign like the permission slips for kids to read books by Black authors in Florida. It's kind of that crazy. So when we talk about the surrounding states, again, Alabama, they just pushed, or the Senate, maybe I don't want to misspeak. That was Mississippi. I know for sure they
Yeah, I can explain it. So Henry flagged this for our chat. And we actually tweeted it out too. So essentially, like a Senate bill in the state legislature in Mississippi was like, we're going to study the effectiveness of state public schools. Of course, like a majority of them were HBCUs. It was like Mississippi Valley State, Alcorn State, Jackson State, and it's like if you're running us through the numbers, like yeah, our numbers are never going to be good because guess what? You don't fund us, so like you're setting us up to fail in your metrics. Thank God the bill didn't go through today. But like Henry was saying, like in Alabama, they were trying to like erase like, pro DE and I like stuff that like localities have done. They're trying to just like remove it. But yeah, I mean, I don't even know what the thing is about it, because it seems like, oh, George Floyd, all right, everybody's like, yeah, this is the thing we need to do. And then I think it's like, I don't know if it's just because like Trump might get in office, people are like, oh, well, now we got to go the other way. Now we got to push this. It's just like there's never any consistency.
I think it's like y'all don't remember the Supreme Court overturned affirmative action. This is literally the rails of affirmative action. So if you tie again, that's why this election is so important. They are heavily fighting. Trump did what? No, he went after the courts. He continually put judges and people in those places so he can do what? What's happening now?
Yeah.
It wasn't a small plan. The Republicans have been attacking it. It's a book about this. If I'm not mistaken, it's Cornel West.
Yeah, he did talk about it at the court.
Right,
yeah,
so
and I think like
they have been fighting or actively attacking the legislative branch for years, while Democrats are focused on what? And I guess you could say diversifying the representatives or whatever the case may be. But if we're not actually protecting our rights, we're going to continue to face what we're facing, where real set in stone precedent, I would say, legislation has been in place and is now being overturned because they're finding tricky little loopholes and then pushing these bills forward.
And I would say that was like
how we used to do, like stop and frisk was a big thing in New York. That's about to start happening in Georgia now.
I mean, they already about to bring that back in New York. So
oh yeah, they're bringing the National Guard up to New York.
Yeah, they're bringing the National Guard. So.
It's ridiculous.
But I think that's actually a thing that I think like we haven't talked about enough, or like that Democrats haven't talked about enough. Like I think Republicans for decades have said like, hey, we view the court as important because we know even if we lose power, this is like our ace in the hole. And Democrats have never done that. Like I think we didn't really start talking about the court until Roe, until affirmative action. And by that time, it's way too late. The train's already left. So I think we just missed the ball on that. But I think probably to what you're saying, Henry, is like that needs to be like a local focus now. Like people need to talk about like, we need more lawyers. We need more people running for judge. We need more people running for the state Supreme Courts. Like those are the candidates who we need to like elevate up, because you actually might save our ass one day.
Like, you're talking about Mike.
You will.
Like, we just seen how the state Supreme Court in Mississippi is what blocked that bill. So again, they can redraft it and resubmit it and whatever.
And they will. They will.
So
Yeah.
to your question, Mackenzie, how would this affect HBCUs? We see it. And the unfortunate thing is, like, what can we do?
Are you saying that we're gonna see FAMU possibly what?
Close.
Close is a big,
I don't think so.
close
But
is
I mean, but
Possibly close isn't a real thing when the University of Florida, that's the next thing. This is how this topic came.
you know what's gonna happen? They're gonna take away the funding if they get any funding from the state.
we'll just squeeze the life out of them.
They're gonna squeeze the
So
life
if
out
you
of them.
squeeze the life out of something, what happens?
I mean, they're not going to close it, but then
I
it's
don't
just
think
it's just
they'll
a matter of
close
like we're sabotaging you enough to that you can never get anything done for real. And guess what? That's what they've done for HBCUs for centuries. They never funded us to the level that we should be funded at. So guess what? We're always going to point out you're second best with the caveat of we never funded you as if you were equal. It's like that's
And
part of the
also,
game.
though, with HBCUs, we have never been funded properly, and we've been still able to manage. So I don't see.
And that's go ahead,
I
Mackenzie.
don't see FAMU shutting because it's just that's like one of the biggest HBCUs. Like I
Yeah,
don't see
that would never
it
happen.
down.
That would never happen.
But what I see is the funding, or if they ever get funding, and then two, if there's any African studies or Africana study, like any of that, that itself, that degree might be taken away or less funded or something. They're gonna squeeze that out. But I don't think
here's the tie-in, because this is actually, I think, legitimate. It's then Florida creating a bill that says you cannot have this as a major if you want public funding.
yes.
That's
Y'all not
actually
paying attention last season when the National Panhellenic, like Greek fraternity, and those they were in uproar because of what y'all just said. He was attempting to push for this not to be taught, not to be funded. So if he's already actively taking these extreme, I don't know what actually is happening in Florida. I'm just telling you the general news of what I see.
I just think it's all on the table, and I think that's like the scary thing. It's like it's not that hard to get there.
You not closing on the table when you just kind of.
I just don't think FAMU is going to close because honestly, it's like one of the largest HBCUs, and I just feel
that
like
would never happen.
Like I don't think that now Benedict College though I am concerned about because it's a much smaller school. So and a lesser known school to people who didn't go to HBCUs. So they don't
You have Bethune-Cookman down there.
I mean, yeah, Bethune-Cookman. What did I say?
Benedict,
or not even like closed. It can just
sorry.
Or not even closed. It can just like it can be like what more happened to Morris Brown. They just lost their accreditation for like 15 years.
Thank you for leading me that way because I was going there. So like the AUC is right here. It's 4 major or were major colleges there. Clark was close to losing their accreditation a few years ago.
Morris Brown lost it for like 15
they actually
years.
Lost it. So those are 2 schools that were well known and respected and whatever.
But Morris Brown still was not on the same size as FAMU. FAMU,
but even then,
always
but it's like those.
Clark is though.
But then it's like I think Henry, those are the type of things where it's like we're not closing you. We're doing enough regular sabotage to just get you off your game.
Forcing you out. That's what's happening.
It's not even forcing you out. Morris Brown never closed, but they're never going to be what they once were. And it's like those. That's how you like sabotage it from within. It's
what's
like
the disconnect?
It's
the word I'm using by saying close. When you literally squeeze the life out of something to where it has no.
I mean, if a university closes, that means like it's just not functioning. Like it's done. No students can go there.
I just don't see that from you just because, like, I mean, like how we're shutting down. Like, I don't know. Like, I literally
that could be a fact if it was in DC. If it was in if Howard was in Mississippi.
But FAMU is like I don't want to say like rankings or whatever, but like Spelman shutting down, Morehouse shutting down, like those are things that I just literally cannot see.
I don't think it would happen. I think it's just a matter of
I don't want to believe it. However, these institutions are how long and how many years old, and then when we think about like a Roe v. Wade getting overturned or affirmative action being overturned, those same rulings were way longer than these institutions being.
I mean, the funny thing is, but the funny thing is, Republicans are smart enough, and I actually do believe this. Republicans are smart enough when they do this stuff to know we cannot cross this step, but we're going to do everything in between to make it seem as if this process is just a part of the game. we'll cut your funding here. We'll tell you that you need to do this to get funding. We're not going to fund you at level. We're going to say all your students need to do this. It's like we're going to do enough stuff just to muck up the process that always hinders your success, similar to redlining, like all these other policies where it's like they're just policies on the board. We're not telling you can't do this. We're just going to make it impossible for you to do it. It's like they know they can't just say, hey, we're going to close this HBCU, but we're going to cut your funding by 50% in this department. Or guess what? We're not, or we're not going to fund, or we're not going to fund state Pell Grants anymore to the level that we once did. Those are like the little things that they do just to like chip away, chip away, chip away. The school will never close, but it will never be able to reach the heights that it could if it just got normal shit.
That's like, where I'm confused on what we're not
because I don't think closure is going to happen for a school like FAMU.
You just F with it.
Small schools, sure. No, it's not triggering, but I'm just saying, you keep saying like, what are you saying?
I guess what I was like, if we seen what happened to Morris Brown to where the campus became depleted, like students,
but it never closed. It never closed.
Again, it was the word I used because
but that's what it means.
But still, was Morris Brown on the same level of student attendance as like Clark, Morehouse, and Spelman, and then FAMU? Like, that's what I'm just saying. Like, I don't see FAMU just because it's such a large institution.
We're getting off the point. The point here,
that is the main point. And I will say this.
You keep getting stuck on every time we say something, you're like, but is it going to close? It's like for us, closing means like they putting chains and bells around the front gate. Like you can't go here anymore.
That's what I'm saying. That's literally what
never going to be that.
But Morris Brown isn't that though. Like Morris Brown has
never that
in there. I actually just watched a documentary how there's like, it's obviously depleted and rah. But there are still like 5 people that go in. There's a professor that like, it's still a functioning school. But no, don't even laugh. Don't even laugh. No, don't laugh. Let me finish my point. Because the guy who is one professors there, they asked him literally, why have you not left? And he said that he has a legacy there. His mom went there, his dad went there, and he just didn't feel comfortable in leaving. And I say that because that's what's gonna take. Like, yeah, white people have always tried to squeeze us out and always try to push us out, giving us stipulations, and still we rise. Like, I don't see FAMU shutting down because we are just resilient people. I don't.
Okay, if you would have said that, we all on Maya Angelou vibes. However, like if we're talking about policies and the actions that
I don't think the school will close. Period. I don't see it happening. I literally don't.
Okay, per Ron DeSantis, if it's up to Ron DeSantis, it is.
But he can't do that.
Close a school, like
he just can't do that.
That would be.
He's gonna defund them and not let them teach anything, and only allow them to have a certain.
He might, but it's never gonna close. I mean, like, but that's I think what Mackenzie and I are saying. It's like you can just F with it to death and make it harder for them to do even basic stuff. But like, you can't just be like, you know what? Put that caution tape around that front gate.
I never
ain't no more.
This communication. I agree. They're gonna deplete it and squeeze it until there's no life out of it. If in case things keep happening the way they are, we need our boy Andrew Gillum to go save Florida herself.
Oh, all right. I'm moving on.
Next segment, please.
I'm moving on now. This is big fact, but we've taken like almost 40 minutes, so I don't want this to be the big fact anymore. Andrew Gillum reference in 2024. That is crazy.
Wait, pause. If they could have, they go see it on YouTube because I'm laughing my butt off. Why did y'all just skirt like that?
I think his story is one of the saddest modern political stories in like the last like 15, 20 years. It really is. It really. Okay. He could have.
He ran against. But like he's on a podcast now.
But also like there's an alternate reality, and I generally believe this in my heart of hearts. If he would have beaten Ron DeSantis in 2018 for governor, he could have been president. I'm like so serious about that. I'm a black governor from Florida.
Didn't Obama come down for him?
No one went down there for him.
I did. I was in Florida in 2018 for work.
No one was down there pushing them both. Awesome, but realistically,
Obama dad saw himself in him. Obama really saw himself in him. That's why.
Well, context. Now that has a way.
Well, yeah, not now. But the reason, because even when I saw that, like, I mean, President Obama coming down to like support
For the
you.
mayor of Tallahassee running for,
Yeah.
governor. Yeah, no, like I
Oh,
generally
okay,
believe that. Like,
okay. So y'all are now connecting the dots that I was seeing. So you
What?
see how Ron DeSantis winning Florida's governorship was a huge deal. So much in case the person running against him pulled in the highest Black political power there is to attempt to help him win that vote, right? So when we were talking about earlier DEI and how all of this is a problem and how the election is a really big deal, that governor and his ideology has now festered all over that state, and some of that
yeah.
policy has now picked up, and other southern states are now picking up these same ideologies, which is taking us back years and years and years. So that's why it is important for us or somebody who speaks to, you know, our views, our values, the things that we believe in, and keeping our schools open, fully funded, and etc. Like has to be in place. So when I was saying that about Andrew Gillum, I wanted to actually make a point of like realistically what could or should be happening or can happen in Florida to where like there's a change of pace. And
Yeah, and I think it's just an interesting story of how like just one event can literally change like everything for two different people in like an entire country like that, given what DeSantis has become and almost became, given what sadly happened to Gillum. Like that's just a very interesting like what could have been if roles were reversed. Um, quick thoughts, because now that this is like this is technically a small fact now. The rematch that nobody wanted is what I have in the document. The presidential general election is now set between Biden and Trump after Nikki Haley dropped out of the Republican primary on Tuesday. Any general thoughts about what this could mean? I have some questions in the doc, but I think given the timing, any thoughts about what we kind of all knew?
I wonder what that conversation was like with Nikki Haley and like why she should step down. I'm just thinking about our conversation that we had earlier at the beginning. And I said that I had interned and the guy literally said that I could never have my wife as president. So I'm just curious to what the Republican Party said to her when it was time to step down.
I
Like,
think she knew.
I mean, I feel like she knew. I'm sure she didn't have that big of a following, rah, rah, rah. But I'm just curious to like, was it on some gender stuff? Like, or was it like woman or anything like that?
The funny story, and I think this is actually the truth, is that I think actually if you gave people truth serum who are honest, who are not like crazy, they would say in Republicans, probably in McKenzie's former intern workplace, they would say we probably effed this up because Nikki Haley would beat the shit out of Donald Trump. I mean, it would beat the shit out of Joe Biden in a general election. It would not even be close. And I'm sure someone is in there saying, damn it, we could have like this all could have been different. Because if it's Nikki Haley versus Biden, it's not even close. It's just the reality.
I would agree with that, and I would prefer. I was maybe hoping for that. If I'm being honest, I would
Oh,
prefer.
a woman Republican
Not
president?
her. Not her.
I would
Mm-mm.
even say, like, I'm not saying she was the right candidate, but I'd prefer her versus Trump. Like, I would say she's a bit more liberal and like just like intuitive, I guess.
I
Mhm.
think she's smarter politically. I don't think she's more
Yeah,
liberal.
yeah.
She's smarter. She reads the room better.
Smarter politically. So I mean, like she's gonna do things that maybe equal more compromise versus Trump is not a compromise type of guy. He is, you get what I'm saying? So even she had to like her views on abortion, she had to maybe shift them a little bit so that she can pull in a certain demographic. So like I think she's willing to play the game, and playing the game is better for the people versus like Trump. We've heard his I get constituents or the people that support him say if he doesn't win, we're gonna blow the country up. We're gonna uproar. It's
Yeah,
gonna
and
be January 6th times 10. So like those are two different, yeah, that's just
yeah, and I think my general I think annoyance, I think with Nikki Haley in general, I think her and I think a lot of other Republicans, I think they want to have their cake and eat it too. Like people don't talk about this enough. Nikki Haley used to work in the Biden administration all 4 years. And people don't really know about that. They didn't really talk about that, but she worked for him. And I wouldn't bet 9 times out of 10, if you work for somebody for 4 years after all that crazy shit and you're still there, like you F with the policy, you F with the movement in general, even though you might try to distance yourself and say like, oh, January 6th was a bridge too far. Okay, well, what about everything that happened the previous 4 years before that? Like Muslim ban, all this other stuff. So it's like, I think she did a really good job as branding herself as moderate, but I think once you kind of like peel back those layers, it's like you're just as bad to me. And the scary thing is like she's like a DeSantis, where it's like you at least know how to like move. So you'll say this in public, but in private, you're like, oh nah, cut abortion. Like I'm not signing that. Which to me is like the scarier part. But if you want Biden to win, which I do, you need Trump, and I think that's the scarier part. Biden needs Trump, and that's like the
No,
most
that's the only way
upsetting
Biden
part.
wins is
Mhm.
going against Trump.
Yeah, it is. Biden
That's
would not have been able to win against any other Republican candidate except Trump. And that's the best thing about this is that Biden has his best chance against the person who probably brings us the most pain. And that's like very much so reminiscent of like the Black American experience. I feel like it's
do we have to really be faced with that reality for people to become, I guess, concerned or involved?
Yes, we just talked about at the top that people, your
Yeah.
own friends and your own neighbors don't care. Like,
Mhm. And I think that's what they have to do is I think they have to like people forget what happened a month ago. I think like a part of the job that Biden has to do is like remind people like, do you actually remember how bad that first 3 months of COVID was and how just kind of like there was really no direction. The government wasn't really doing shit. Like, yeah, I gave you a stimulus, but like what else was really happening? Like all these other crazy things in terms of Muslim ban, in terms of all these other things that he was doing. There's a reason why everyone is not filing their taxes. It's because Trump signed a tax bill into law. Like, talk about literally that type of stuff. Like,
Okay.
where ever since Trump has become in office, my taxes ain't been nothing.
You kind of just I guess threw something in my head. Like what if we have to scare people to vote, why aren't they reminding people of like what his because I don't think I've seen that I don't think I've seen that kind of narrative of like
Mhm.
all the things Trump actually did that are affecting you in real time. Like
Mhm.
I see more of it's interesting that his camp isn't tapping into the superpowers that they can use. I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, you have to tap into what he's done, what he will do, and how you're a little bit different. But it's hard. It's hard for them to walk and chew gum, given all the issues that we just talked about earlier. All right, so we can go to the heads up. Someone put this in the chat today. If you check our Instagram, go to the Grio. We have a great comment narrated by Henry. So CBS is developing their first Black daytime soap in 35 years called The Gates, according to CBS. It will be a CBS Studios and NAACP production. It will follow a wealthy Black family living in a quote unquote posh gated community. Henry, would you like to tell the folks what your top comment was that currently is still up
It's
on
so
the
funny.
Grio?
Now Tyler Perry somewhere swinging in the air.
wait, what did you say?
I said, we hope Tyler Perry's not involved. Uh,
Tyler Perry got the pen out right now.
Meanwhile, we still trying to get guests on our show. So Tyler, please don't be offended. Like,
love you, but let's be real. I have very strong opinions of what you're doing in Black media. He is Black media and he could be doing better. I'll tell him that to his face.
he don't care. It said written, directed, produced, shot, filmed all by him. He don't care.
Look, and that's cool, but that lets me know how you feel. Like that lets me know a lot about you, honestly, because if you have that much power as a Black man in media and you see, let's say how we talk about this election, I don't see any champions from this Black man in media getting involved or whatever, because he probably voting with his friend Oprah. Like, I'm gonna call you.
I'm not gonna do that. They get involved. I'm not gonna.
Also,
I'm not gonna.
when has Oprah ever told
Stacey.
Oprah will come show face and be like, "Oh, go see The Color Purple. I got
She
this."
was with Stacey Abrams. She was with Stacey Abrams.
Yeah, I will not let you do
And
that.
she
I will
was with
not let you do
Obama.
that.
Literally, they said that Oprah giving Obama the okay, like bringing him on her show at that time, like
That probably made him president.
You don't play Oprah now. I don't know what world you
Yeah.
live in, but Oprah is
Well,
moving.
she
Oprah
better
was the
pay my
first like
sister
national
Roger.
person
How
to put
about that?
her arm around Obese.
I'm not a fan. I guess like
When he
maybe
get mad, he just starts saying anything.
I'm not mad, and I'm not just saying anything. We all know those representative Black people that separate themselves from our actual culture. We went to Howard University, so do not attempt to belittle my intelligence on this here podcast,
Why
okay?
are you getting so mad?
I am not mad. Like, I'm being direct. Come on. Come on. We both went to school for communications. You should understand how it works.
That's cool. I'm gonna put that on my vision board. I'm not mad. I'm being direct. That's the 2024 phrase of the year right there. All right, so moving on, at least on some media stuff. Apparently everybody is raving about Zendaya in Dune 2. I haven't seen it, but people are
I
talking
haven't
about it.
seen
I
it
don't know.
yet. I love Zendaya. I saw the first one the other day, and honestly, are y'all like sci-fi Star Wars people? Yeah, it gave very much that.
However, that's why I love Zendaya because she's all like from her grown-up days. Like she goes after the roles that you don't
Yeah,
see
Mhm.
you don't see us in. You don't
right.
see us in. You don't
Right.
see us in sci-fi like that.
I appreciate that about her. She has this like thing about her that je ne sais quoi about her that she's able to appeal to a broader, I guess, audience and go a little bit further than what we've seen some Black mainstream actors do. So I
Yeah,
think,
and I also think she just picks a really like if you like did like the main things that she's known for, like Dune, the joint on Euphoria. I remember that kind of weird movie that she put out during COVID with John David Washington. Like these are all like really different roles that require a different skill of acting. I don't know many other people. I mean, there are probably a lot of Black actors and actresses who could do it. They're just not given the roles. But I think she is one of the few people who I would say has the opportunity and actually takes advantage of it to say like, oh, I'm gonna try this. Like, why not? And I think that's cool.
And the one I just love Zendaya because she has never forgotten like she's Black, and she always
Yeah.
champions that. She
Mm-hmm.
champions colorism. She's acknowledged that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and even acknowledge it to the point to like say that this is, I cannot deny that this isn't a part of my success. And I just
Yeah.
love because she's talented and she's been able to do all these roles. But to your point, Noah, like I'm sure that there's other Black actors who can also do these roles too, but they just
Mm-hmm.
simply given the opportunity. So
Yeah. I mean, like to me, there's no reason why I think like an actor like Coleman Domingo should not be like in all of these different things, or like there's no reason why what was the dude's name? It was an actor who I love. Giancarlo Esposito, who's been an actor since like the 80s. There's no reason why like he shouldn't have been like a love interest in a movie. Like all of these other things, like there's so many roles that we probably should have had for our Black actors that like we just never got. Well, speaking of acting, the Oscars will happen on Sunday. They will feature presentations by Issa Rae, Forrest Whitaker, and Cynthia Erivo, who was mainly doing stuff on stage and Broadway. American Fiction has earned 5 nominations, while including others, Divine Joy Randolph, Jeffrey Wright, Sterling K. Brown, and the previously mentioned Coleman Domingo. Usually I do not watch the Oscars, but worth checking out. I want American Fiction to win everything.
yes, did y'all see American Fiction?
I
yeah,
didn't.
they
It
did.
was so, I liked it. It was so good.
And when we talk about scripts that like that's not like that was a script. I'm not a good STSC person.
Right.
Script. There you go. I think that's not the typical Black story that you'd see go far with the awards, so that's what I think is cool because you can see us in so many different lights in that movie alone. So it's cool. I'm
And
glad.
what I liked about it is that that movie didn't have that much marketing. Like there was no real
It
marketing
was
for it.
creative too. It was
It
very
was
creative
super
in its marketing.
creative. Um, and that's just why I love Black people on television because we shine so bright in so many different arenas and we aren't given money. Like to our point about the colleges, I'm assuming, I mean, I don't know, maybe American Fiction didn't have a big Barbie budget to do marketing, but we are still showing up and showing out
Mhm.
for ourselves and it's still paying off. So that's all.
Yeah, and I think when I think of it, it was originally a book by this guy Percival Everett, and I think there is probably what should be done is there are probably a lot of really good Black books that probably deserve a movie. And I think people need to start thinking of like what book is really, really good that's by a Black
Perry, this your
author.
role. Tyler
What is
Perry,
that?
Tyler Perry, this your role. You talk about somebody that can fund Black movies, Black productions, Black creations, blah 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 blah. That's why I am so like I don't have a problem with bro,
Do
and I'm
you
not.
want him to fund it though?
No,
If
I
he's
don't.
not
I
right,
You
don't.
don't want him
he's
to
not
fund
right.
it.
That's
I
what I'm
don't.
saying. That's where maybe how you said I was mad. I'm not mad, but I'm passionate about that because I'm a Black man in media, and he can very much fund a lot of Black projects that aren't getting that funding and take Black cinema to that extra mile. We just seen how Issa Rae was kind of talking or speaking toward how she's restructuring or figuring out how she's going to the next level because she see these big conglomerate companies canceling the rap shit shouldn't have been canceled. Honestly,
No.
Sweet Life shouldn't have been canceled because it can speak to somebody. And she has so many other things that could have or should be in the works and other Black creators. So that's where I was speaking from. Is like we see in real time Black shows, Black Crew or the Black Crew that was on. I used to like that little corny show. It used to come on Hulu. That's how
I
I
know
used
what you're talking about. The crew, yeah.
the crew, yeah, that show. So like we see all of these shows getting canceled, and then it's like we look around and we ask why these studios don't want to fund our project. So like I think that's a full circle for me.
No,
Um,
yeah, I mean, even like Black Lady Sketch Show, which I thought was a really, really well written comedy sketch show that like doesn't exist anymore. That was all largely written by Black women. I was upset that that got canceled. So HBO, which I think was to me and a bunch of other people like the crown jewel for like Black television, has quickly fallen off that. And there
Yeah,
is
because
one
the
show I do
more
want
I
to
think
shout out
about it,
because
no, I was gonna say the more shows I think about, a lot of Black shows on HBO have definitely gotten canceled. Southside by
yeah,
in Chicago. Oh my
hmm
God, that's so
which is
funny.
good, which is really good. And I think there is one show I do want to shout out because I was nervous when it first came out because it's by Kenya Barris was involved. I would actually encourage people to watch the Vince Staples show on Netflix. I think it's really, really well written. And I think it's like its brand of comedy, I think to what you were talking about, Henry, it's like very accessible to a lot of different people. Like you can be kind of from a bad background, or you can just kind of be someone who's like successful in a Black family and kind of know what that feels like, where Vince Staples is engaging his family and he's kind of the breadwinner. It's like little stuff that's kind of like dropped in that's not like it's not intended to be funny, but it's funny because you recognize like, oh yeah, I have an uncle who would do that same shit. And I think it's actually like a really, really well written, well structured show. And Vince Staples actually does a really good job kind of anchoring it. So I would actually encourage people to check out. Like I think it's to me probably one of the funniest shows I've watched this year outside of like Abbott. But boom, that concludes. Well, Henry, get ready to record after. Get ready to pause the recording after I finish. But that concludes season 4, episode 7 of the What's Really Going On podcast. As always, be sure to like, listen, and subscribe on all of our social media platforms and wherever you listen to your podcast. Be sure to check out all of our graphics. Especially be sure to watch on YouTube where we will start doing some creative stuff. I will shout out that in the next couple of weeks, in the next couple episodes, we will have some amazing things in store. So be sure to check out. Thank you.